Hello, and welcome to the Social Security Show. I'm Daniel Sommer, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration in Chicagoland and the Northwest Indiana area. As always, I bring you information about our services and programs and answer the questions as Mr. Social Security. However, today I'm going to be talking to you about a very important topic. One which I think gets neglected sometimes, and that's about survivor's benefits. People don't like to discuss this because, well, they feel it's morbid, but I have a treat for you. Though Josephine's not here, I've got a special guest who is also with the Social Security Administration, and he's a technical expert. So we will be picking his brain today, and I'd really like for him to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about how long he's worked for Social Security and his role. So Shaz, take it away.
Thank you, Daniel. Hello, everyone. My name is Shahzaib Shakeel. I go by Shaz. I've been with Social Security for 10 years now. I started my career in their New York office. I moved to Chicago about 7 years ago. Absolutely love it in Chicago. I won't comment on whose pizza is better just yet. But I recently transitioned into this public affairs specialist role, which has provided some tremendous opportunity for me to talk about our programs and our benefits on a more bigger scale. This is actually my first time in a TV studio, so I'm very excited about that. And I'm looking forward to the show today.
Thank you, Shaz. And I like pizza both New York and Chicago style. So, nevertheless, let's talk about this program because, Shaz, as you know, there's a lot of misconceptions about how people qualify for our programs. I hear some of the wildest things when I'm out and about or when I'm in one of our field offices in the area. But one of the things that I think that we really need to get to is how someone qualifies for survivor's benefits, because we know the basics that you qualify for retirement by working. That's a given. But I think that we need to demystify this just a little bit. So I want to ask you, because it's usually a very difficult time when a person is receiving a survivor's benefit. They've lost a loved one. And not only did they lose that loved one, they lose the financial support of that loved one. And Social Security steps in, and we do things a little differently for retirement and survivors. So tell me first and foremost, how does one qualify as a surviving spouse or child or other relative?
So in order to qualify, the main component is proving your relationship with the worker. So if an individual works enough, he or she will qualify for benefits. Should that person predecease and leave some family members who are eligible for benefits, those family members will need to prove their relationship to the worker. So for a spouse, proving your marriage to the worker. Now there's different factors that go into that. We can talk about that in a little bit. Whether you were married at the time of the worker's passing, whether you divorced or had the marriage terminate previously, there's other factors to look at. And for children, age is a factor for the child, and then proving the relationship to either the deceased mother or father are a big thing.
I see. So that in and of itself can be something that lay people who don't work for Social Security can have a problem understanding just who qualifies. Because one of those questions that I've heard time and time again when I was in the field office, and I'm sure you have too, is what happens to all the money that someone pays in if they die before they're old enough to retire? And I want you to address that really quickly.
So the money that the person has paid into Social Security is they've paid it in for their own retirement insurance or for their family. So the money is there to be paid out to eligible beneficiaries. Now there's certain factors that would make you not eligible. For example, if a child wants to apply for survivor benefits, but the child is in their mid-20s and working themselves, you won't be eligible, unfortunately, because you'll be able to provide for your own self with your own earnings. So the main thing to think about is those earnings that are lost because that worker is no longer working, the family needs them in a way because the family, either the widow or the surviving children, are not working or unable to work because of a disability. So it's going to replace that income that the family loses because the worker is no longer working.
So it's okay, but I'm being the father's, mother's, uncle's, brother's friend, I don't qualify as one of those individuals that would be quote unquote family enough. So the
Right.
relationship is important. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Correct.
Now, let's talk about another thing that I see a lot of. I've seen commercials where insurance companies are saying they only got $255. Now, that's not the survivor benefit. I'd like for you to clarify the difference between that $255 that we keep hearing about and the survivor benefit that we speak of.
So the 255 is a one-time lump sum death payment. That's what it's called. So that's available again to a qualifying individual, surviving widow, surviving child. That's a one-time payment that Social Security makes when a worker passes away. So that's very different from the ongoing monthly benefit a widow or a surviving child would qualify for if they applied for the actual monthly benefit.
So that's so misleading when you have, they only got $255. It makes it sound like that's all that's possible to receive through Social Security. So thank you for clearing that up. Now, I'm going to ask you about survivor's benefits versus retirement, because what I tend to find, particularly today, because as you know, there are couples where both of them work and potentially qualify for Social Security. I just spoke to someone the other day who, unfortunately, her spouse passed away a couple of years ago. Now, she also was looking at her retirement benefit, and it was substantially less than what she would get as a widow. Now, I know that there's also at times a spousal benefit when both people are alive. So give me a bit of the distinction between, first, the difference between what you could potentially get with a living spouse versus one who passes away. And also, what do you do when you have to compare a retirement benefit versus a widow's?
All right, so the spousal benefit and the widow benefit, you can kind of look at those together in the sense that you would be drawing that benefit off of a different worker's record. That different worker being your spouse, your husband or your wife. So while my spouse is alive and receiving their own retirement benefits, I would be eligible for up to 50% of their benefits. So if the spouse is getting $2,000, I'd be eligible for up to $1,000 a month.
So at most, you can get up to half.
Up to half. At most, if you reach the appropriate age, you're old enough, you get to your full retirement age. If you draw it earlier, it'll be less than half. Now that same spousal benefit, while your spouse is alive, you're eligible for half. Now should your spouse predecease you, you would be eligible for up to 100% of their benefit. So basically that full $2,000 that the spouse was getting, you would be eligible for that. So that's the spousal and widow benefit, again, coming off of a different person, your spouse's earning record. Now, the retirement benefits that you mentioned, that same spouse could be eligible for retirement benefits on their own Social Security earning record, assuming they've been working and have enough quarters of coverage and have enough work credits under their own Social Security number.
And Social Security always seeks to pay you the highest possible benefit.
Correct.
Because I think that there's this misnomer that we're trying to get you less. Because with lots of pension plans, people have to take the lesser of the two here, the lesser of the two numbers. But we at Social Security look at this advantage to the public, right? We always want to pay you. If your spousal benefit is higher, then we want to pay you that spousal benefit as opposed to your own. If there's a widow or widowers, because it works both ways, right?
Right.
As long as you're married, you can draw from husband and wife to wife, or husband and husband and husband and wife, as long as you have a marriage. And by the way, let's talk about divorced benefits, because a person can get a survivor's benefit even if they're divorced from someone. What are the requirements?
Correct. So for a divorced widow benefit or a divorced spouse benefit, You have to have been married to the worker for at least 10 years. And obviously, when you apply for this benefit, the claim representative will ask you, when did you get married? When was the divorce or annulment finalized? And the dates of that are very important. It's got to be at least 10 years.
And there's one special provision, though, for survivors, though, right? Suppose someone gets married. Then shortly after that marriage, unfortunately, their spouse passes away. The 10 years duration of marriage doesn't count. There's a 9-month provision.
Correct. For a widow's benefit, so you would, so in that case, again, the marriage ended because of the death. It didn't end because of a divorce. You have to have been married at least 9 months. So I'm guessing what that's probably designed to prevent is somebody's terminally sick, God forbid, and they know they don't have much longer to live, and you quickly get a marriage on the books just to have somebody pay, get paid those benefits a month later. That's where the 9-month duration most likely came in from.
All the more reason to get your information from Social Security. When you get your information directly from Social Security, things like that 9-month rule that often get missed. And I've had people, because Shaz, like you, I hate missed entitlements. And that's when someone is supposed to get a benefit, but because someone, maybe outside of Social Security, tells them, well, you can't get that, or that you can get this benefit, they are misled and potentially lose money. We don't want that to happen to you. We at Social Security want to pay you every dollar to which you're entitled. So please come directly to Social Security, because this is where you'll find out about things like that 9-month rule. Now, speaking of rules, let's talk about work. Now, sometimes people look at retirement, because you can start that at age 62 at the earliest, right?
Right.
Now, the time frame is quite different for widow or widower's benefits, isn't it?
Correct. So widow or widower's benefits, you can start as early as age 60, which is 2 years before your own retirement benefits could start. As you mentioned, Danny, that's at age 62. Now, if you do start at 60 or 62, these are considered early benefits because a full retirement age is close to 66 or 67, depending on when you were born. So if you're taking your benefits early, you have to be sort of aware of how much you're going to be earning if you decide to keep working.
Now, let me ask you this then. Now, the most that someone can get with a living spouse is up to 50% of their benefit for a spousal benefit, correct?
Correct.
Now, if someone starts at the earliest possible point for a survivor's benefit as a widow or widower, what's the amount that they would get at age 60?
So, again, the full amount you would get as a widow at your full retirement age is 100% of the benefit. So if you draw it close at 60, which is almost 6 or 7 years early, the numbers work out to you get about 70% of it. But there's, we'll calculate it exactly based on your full retirement age and the month you decide to pick up the benefits. So the only time you'll see the full 100% of the widow's check is if you get that widow benefit at your full retirement age.
So at the earliest possible point that you could draw a widow or widower's benefit, you'd still get more than the maximum 50% that you'd have with a living spouse.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, my understanding is that is to try to help make up for the loss, not of your spouse, but when you lose your spouse, you also lose their financial support. We understand that families are an economic unit. At Social Security, we know that they don't say, we're sorry you lost your husband or wife, we're going to cut the mortgage in half. They don't do that. People still have expenses, but from the support and hard work of your spouse, former spouse, or parent, because children can receive benefits. Now, tell me just a bit about what a child could potentially receive. Say their parent passes away and they're not yet an adult.
So children, again, are eligible for benefits. There's minor child benefits if somebody predeceases and leaves children who are younger than 18. That surviving child can get up to 75% of the worker's full check amount. There's also other type of children's benefits we can pay if a child is over 18, but they've had a disability since childhood. That child can potentially receive surviving disabled child benefits for the rest of his or her life.
On the parent's record?
On the parent's record, assuming they're not working themselves, the child.
And as long as they were disabled prior to the age of 22?
22, correct.
Right. So you see, survivor benefits are to support the family. Now, you mentioned if a person kept working. I want to touch on that just a little bit because someone's getting a survivor's benefit. The same rules apply to them as if they were receiving a retirement benefit about working if they're under their full retirement age?
That's correct. So under your full retirement age, there's a lot of other factors that come into play. So the first factor being you won't get the full check that you would get at your full retirement age. The other factor is you're taking these benefits and these retirement benefits early because you're quote unquote retiring early. You're not going to be working till 66 or 67. So if you draw that early benefit, yet you continue to work full time and make 50, 60,000 a year, you may not receive all of your checks for that year because in theory you haven't actually retired early and you're still working full time. So if you want to draw your benefits early, every year early that you come on, you'll be subject to something called an annual earning test. And this annual earning test will apply to you until your full retirement age. Meaning if you're still working, you have to be very aware of your annual income and the amount you're going to be filing taxes on for the end of the year.
Now, when a person reaches full retirement age, that's no longer the case.
That's no longer the case.
So they can work till their heart's content.
Correct. And receive their check, their retirement or widow's check, and continue to work if they choose to do so.
And speaking of that, people always want to know, Shaz, what's the best time to file here? What's the best time to file there? But I gotta say that one important ingredient in understanding a survivor's benefit as opposed to a retirement is when it stops growing. Because you know how some people say, I want to delay my retirement. I could get my benefits at full retirement age and keep working, but I want to get an additional 8% per year. So I'm going to keep going till age 70. There's a slightly different rule, however, when it comes to survivor's benefits for a widow or widower. When they reach full retirement age, what happens?
So for widow or widower, once you get to your full retirement age, that's when you want to go ahead and start that benefit because it's not going to increase if you delay it any further. Those delayed credits only accrue under your own retirement record, under your own retirement account. So many times what folks may do is draw your widow benefit or a widower benefit at your full retirement age. You can continue to work and delay receiving your own retirement up until the max delay age of 70. And then at that time, switch it over to your retirement because that's the most you can get on your retirement. After 70, there's no point of delaying anything. That's the max for your retirement.
I wanted to emphasize that point because, believe it or not, in some of the questions I got a Dear Mr. Social Security question where a real-life, well-known financial advisor told someone who was receiving a widow's benefit to continue to let it grow until 70, and they'd already gone 2 years behind. That's 24 checks.
Right.
Blown.
Right. So again, there's a lot of different factors that come into play. So as Danny mentioned, talking to a Social Security representative is probably your best way. Now, this whole delaying process of starting your widows and delaying your retirement, you'll be able to do that, but you would not be able to start your spousal benefits and delay your retirement. There may be some rules that come into play where if you're taking a spousal benefit, you'll be required to take your retirement at the same month. So there's different rules depending on what type of benefit you're applying for.
Many of the worries that I get and I hear about, Shaz, are remarriage. I have lots of people who say, well, yeah, I was married, then my spouse and I divorced. We were married longer than 10 years. And they married someone else. Then they passed away. Can I get a survivor's benefit as a widow or widower? That's going to be one of the really common ones that I hear.
So you may be able to. Remarriage may affect your benefits to that prior spouse, but the age at which you remarry is a critical factor here. So generally, if you remarry after age 60, it doesn't negatively impact you, meaning it doesn't disqualify you for benefits.
How about the deceased spouse marrying someone else? Does that at all affect the benefit that the potential widow could get?
It does not.
Thank you, because that is a big question. People worry. Sometimes they look at the other spouse with
Right.
venom in their eyes.
Right.
But I want you to know, it can't affect you in that way. If you meet the duration of marriage requirements and you either remained unmarried or you marry after age 60, the potential for you to receive a widow or widower's benefit is absolutely protected. Shaz, it's been a great session here, and I really appreciate your expertise coming on. Here at the Social Security Administration, we're going to continue to bring you topical shows, and I'm going to show you something very important. This is the Survivor's Benefits pamphlet that you will see if you go to your Social Security office. Pick one up, or you can go online at ssa.gov and you'll find the same information. We'll be here with you next time. So remember, Social Security is with you throughout life's journey. People always want to know about Social Security benefits because from the beginning to the end, when your baby gets that Social Security card, all the way to when they begin working and pay FICA taxes, if someone becomes disabled, while you're there, when you're having your retirement party, or when you lose a loved one, we at Social Security will continue to bring you information. And one of the things that we want to talk about before we leave you today are fraudsters, because those phone calls are still coming in. Shaz, you get them, I get the phone calls, and we disseminate information about Social Security. So before we wind this show up, we want to remind you, please hang up. Don't answer those calls. If they talk to you, don't give them information. They're trying to piece together enough information to do some pretty insidious things. Shaz, what kind of dangers do you face if someone gets your information?
So plenty of dangers you can face. If you're getting Social Security benefits, somebody can go in and change your bank account and start receiving those direct deposits to a whole different account. Somebody can apply for workers' compensation or unemployment on your behalf or pretending to be you, which could disqualify you for Social Security SSI if you're receiving that. So plenty of bad things can happen. So as Danny mentioned, the main thing is these fraudsters are going to try to get the information from you because they don't have it in front of them. They just kind of lure you into this conversation and you get comfortable and start offering up, here's my date of birth. The main distinction is when a Social Security or genuine Social Security representative calls you, we have your information. We're not going to ask you for it. So that's usually the tipping point. If you can kind of listen for that, it's a good way to kind of proceed.
Absolutely. We gave you your Social Security number. We had it before you did. So we absolutely won't be asking you for that information. And these fraudsters and scammers want to open credit cards. Shaz, there was even a person who someone opened a home equity line of credit on the house they live in. So they'll take your home from underneath you and leave you holding the bag. You don't want to be that person. What you want to be is the prudent person. And I've made calls to people, and I really am from Social Security, honest. But sometimes a person says, well, I don't feel comfortable doing this over the phone. That's smart and that's okay. We are never offended. And if that person pressures you, there you've got another clue that they're not really from the Social Security Administration. And what you absolutely want to do is hang up and call the Social Security number, not the one they give you, but the one that you know to your local servicing office, because we can all see all of the same information. And then you can find out if Social Security called you. And frankly, we don't call people out of the blue. Sure, if you recently filed an application or did some business with us, we may call to follow up or make something complete. But we absolutely don't just say, hey, I wonder what Shaz is doing today. I'm going to call him and ask him his social security number and some other information. We are there for you throughout life's journey. And once again, we're signing off telling you to be aware of the fraudsters and the scammers. Any last words there?
Absolutely. Please visit our website, familiarize yourself with what an actual Social Security correspondence, what an actual Social Security website looks like. A lot of these folks will make it seem as if they're the actual Social Security Administration, but they're not. They might use logos that look similar. So just familiarize yourself with the actual agency in your local office and stay safe.